He told me cancer made me too exhausting to love, but the trash bags said it louder. I didn't cry when they shaved my hair. I didn't cry when my veins collapsed from the IVs, but I cried when I saw the trash bags. They were stacked neatly on the front porch like someone had taken their time. 9 of them, each one a piece of the life I thought I still had. I stood there, clutching the doorframe, too weak to scream, too stunned to move. I had just come from chemo, 3rd round. My mouth tasted like metal, and the nausea still sat heavy in my throat. All I wanted was my blanket, the quiet of our apartment, and maybe, just maybe, Eric's arms. Instead, I got heat rising off black plastic and a deadbolt that no longer recognized me. My key clicked, but the door didn't budge. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Chemo fog was real. Maybe I was at the wrong building. Maybe I was dreaming. But then I saw it. His handwriting, taped to the door. One line, cold and calculated. Claire, I need space. Don't come in. I've made arrangements. No emotion, no warmth, just execution. I sat down hard on the step, the pavement, burning through my jeans. My body throbbed with the weight of sickness and confusion. I picked at the tape, ripped the note down, hoping this was a joke. It wasn't. The bags were labeled: shoes, kitchen, bathroom. My life, itemized and exiled like it was clutter in his way. I opened one. My scarves folded wrong. The throw blanket I used during treatment, still carrying the scent of hospital detergent and peppermint oil. That detail undid me. He'd packed it like he was doing me a favor, as if kindness could be wrapped in betrayal. I called him. Straight. To voicemail. I texted, "Eric, I'm outside. What the hell is going on?" No reply. The silence screamed louder than any answer could. My fingers shook as I typed again. "Let me in. We need to talk." Nothing. Just a read receipt and a block. That was when the neighbor walked by. Mrs. Lutz from 2B. She looked down at me like I was trash too. "Didn't he tell you?" she asked, tilting her head. "He said you were moving out. I thought it was mutual." My stomach turned. She wasn't being cruel. She genuinely believed it. When I finally got through to the landlord, he sounded awkward. Guilty even. "He came in with papers last week," he said. "Said it was urgent, that you were separating. He had everything signed. Your name's been removed." My mouth went dry. I never signed a damn thing. He forged it. Or pressured someone. I don't know. All I knew was that the apartment I lived in, bled in, survived in, was no longer mine. And Eric had made sure of it without a single conversation. He wanted a clean slate, no chemo, no wife, no accountability. And still, I waited. I sat on that porch for over an hour, like some stray dog begging to be let back in. Hope is a funny thing. It clings, even when it's being kicked. I kept telling myself, this has to be a mistake. He wouldn't do this. Not like this. But deep down, I already knew. Eric didn't want to carry the burden of my illness anymore. He didn't want to rub my back during treatments or sleep next to my cold sweats. He wanted freedom. And he took it the moment I became inconvenient. That was the kind of man I married. I started piecing things together. The distance. The way he stopped coming to appointments. How he flinched every time I talked about side effects. How he'd smile too easily when he left the house but barely looked me in the eye when he came home. He'd been slipping away for months. But this? This was abandonment dressed up as a breakup. It wasn't heartbreak. It was annihilation. He didn't just leave me. He erased me, quietly, strategically, like I was a chapter he regretted writing. A girl like me should be grateful, right? That he stuck around this long. I wish I could say I stood up and walked away with my head high. I didn't. I curled up next to those trash bags and sobbed into my own sweater. I couldn't even open all of them. Some things hurt too much to confirm, like whether he kept our wedding album or threw that out too. My body was shaking, not just from chemo, but from grief, from humiliation, from rage I didn't have the strength to voice yet. Because beneath all the pain, one thought echoed louder than the rest. He planned this. While I was fighting for my life, he was planning my exit. And the worst part, he thought I wouldn't find out. But I would. Not just what he did, but who helped him do it. The silence around him wasn't empty. It was hiding something. And that silence was about to break, because I wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. We met in line at a bookstore. 2 people arguing over the last copy of the same novel. He smiled first. One of those lopsided grins that makes you forget what you were saying. I gave in, let him take the book, and walked away, thinking I'd never see him again. He chased me down outside with coffee and a promise. Let me buy you dinner, and I'll tell you how the book ends. Eric was magnetic. The kind of man who remembered your favorite song after one listen and made you feel like you were the only woman in a room full of models. He was attentive in all the right ways, pulling out chairs, leaving notes in my lunch, memorizing my coffee order. It was fast, but not rushed. It felt safe. Our first kiss was in a laundromat. Romantic, right? We'd gotten caught in the rain, soaked and laughing, and ducked inside to dry off. He kissed me between cycles, still damp, still smiling. That kiss tasted like new beginnings. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe I finally found someone who won't leave. By month 3, I had a drawer at his place. By 6, I had my name on the lease. He wanted to move fast, and I let him. He made it feel like momentum, not pressure. Life's short, he'd say, brushing hair from my face. When you know, you know. I believed him. He proposed on a rooftop, candles everywhere, my best friend Melissa hiding in the corner filming the whole thing. I wore that ring like armor, like a promise that I wouldn't have to fight alone anymore. He told me I was his lighthouse, that even when things got dark, I'd guide him home. I had no idea I'd need that light for myself. Melissa was the first person I called after the engagement. We screamed, cried, drank cheap champagne in our pajamas. She was my anchor, my voice of reason. Or so I thought. Back then, I trusted her like a sister. If only I'd looked a little closer, seen the way her eyes lingered too long when Eric spoke, or how she always offered to keep him company when I wasn't feeling well. Our wedding was small, intimate. My dad had passed, so I walked myself down the aisle. Eric cried when he saw me, wiped my tears when I forgot my vows. People said we looked like a movie couple. And for a while, we played the part well. The first 2 years were blissful. We traveled, cooked together, danced in the kitchen at midnight. He made me playlists for every mood, sent flowers just because. I thought we were building something rare, something worth holding on to. When I got sick, he didn't run. Not at first. He held my hair when I threw up. He massaged my feet when I couldn't sleep. He told me I was beautiful, even when I felt like a corpse wrapped in skin. That's the part that hurts the most. He was good. Until he wasn't. I remember our last good night together. We watched old movies and fell asleep on the couch. He whispered, "I've got you," as I drifted off. I held on to that like a life raft. It was the last time he meant it. The last time I felt like his wife instead of his burden. There were signs, of course. Subtle ones. His phone was always face down. He stopped asking how I felt. Started working late. coming home smelling like hotel soap. But back then, I chalked it up to stress, to fear. I never imagined betrayal could be that quiet. Melissa stopped visiting too, claimed she couldn't handle hospitals, said it reminded her of her mother. I understood at the time. I didn't push. I thought she was grieving something. Turns out she was hiding something. Something vile. Something calculated. Looking back, I see it now. The way Eric started checking out of conversations, zoning out mid-sentence. How Melissa started texting me less and him more. I'd trusted them both with the rawest parts of me. And they were already sharpening the knives, but in those early days, it was perfect, or close enough to keep me blind. That's how toxic relationships hide themselves. In nostalgia, in potential, in the version of someone they used to be. The version you keep chasing long after it's died, and I chased it. Through blood tests, infusions, weight loss, I kept showing up, loving him, believing in him, even as he was disappearing. I thought love was enough. I thought we were enough. But love doesn't protect you from cruelty. It only delays the moment you see it. Because when someone leaves, you while you're fighting to live, it's not love. It's emotional abandonment in its cruelest form. And one day, I was going to make sure he knew that. Not just with words, with truth, with exposure, with everything he tried to bury. It started small, subtle. The kind of things you dismiss because you want to believe the best. He stopped holding my hand in public, said it was too hot outside. Then he stopped saying, "I love you," unless I said it first. I told myself, we were just adjusting. That illness changes people. I just didn't know it would erase him. He started coming home later, said work was overwhelming, that his boss was on his ass. I believed him, even when his shirt smelled like hotel-grade detergent and his eyes refused to meet mine. I was too exhausted from treatment to argue, and he knew that. When I asked him to come to my next chemo appointment, he sighed. Actually, sighed, like I'd asked him to carry me up a mountain. "I've been to like 10 of these, Claire," he said. "You'll be fine. It's routine now, right?" Routine. As if dying cells in my blood had become boring. He told me I was too negative when I cried after losing my eyebrows. "Try being more upbeat," he said, scrolling through his phone while I stared at myself in the mirror, a stranger with sunken cheeks. That night, I started using concealer just to look like I was okay. For him. Then there was the finances. Suddenly, we had less money. He told me to stop ordering food on the days I couldn't cook. Said I needed to pull my weight, even if I was tired. I asked to see the bills. He got defensive. Said I didn't trust him. The gaslighting was like smoke, invisible, suffocating. Melissa started showing up less, but when she did, she always looked polished, sympathetic, too sympathetic. She'd bring Eric coffee but never asked me what I needed. Once, I caught her hand linger on his shoulder. She laughed too hard at his jokes. But I buried the suspicion. Because what's worse than being sick and paranoid? One night, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. Dinner for 2, wine, dessert. I asked about it. He didn't flinch. "Client dinner," he said, eyes steady, voice bored. He was so smooth, so practiced. He didn't lie with panic. He lied like it was breathing. He started locking his phone. New password. Said it was because of work security. But he'd flinch every time a text came through, turn the screen face down. I asked once gently. He said, "Claire, don't start imagining things. You've always been sensitive." That word, sensitive, was his weapon. Anytime I brought up how distant he felt, how cold, he'd frame it as my weakness. "It's the chemo talking," he'd say. "Your hormones are off." He made me question my own sanity while smiling like he was doing me a favor. I began shrinking, apologizing more, asking for less. I stopped telling him when I felt sick, started pretending I was stronger than I was, because every time I showed vulnerability, I could see it. The way he pulled away. The way he looked at me like I was breaking the illusion he wanted to live in. He said once, "I miss how fun you used to be." I stared at him, bald, weak, my body barely functioning. "I'm trying to survive, Eric," I whispered. He just nodded, already looking at his phone. That was the night I started dying in more ways than one. The fights turned icy. He didn't yell. He withdrew, gave me silence like punishment. If I cried, he walked out. If I confronted, he laughed. "God, Claire, you're exhausting." That word haunted me, like my illness had transformed me into a chore he regretted. One morning I woke up and he was gone. No note, no text, just gone. Came back after midnight smelling like soap and sin. I asked where he'd been. "Don't start," he said, already heading for the shower. I wanted to believe it was still salvageable, that maybe he was just scared, but I wasn't that naive anymore. The hardest part was pretending I didn't notice, pretending I didn't feel the shift, the coldness, the calculation. I knew something was breaking beneath the surface. I just didn't know how close we were to the collapse. Not yet. But my body did. My body knew. It started trembling when he walked into the room. Started curling into itself at the sound of his voice. I thought it was the chemo. It wasn't. It was my soul reacting to betrayal I hadn't uncovered yet. The night before my third chemo, I made him dinner. I forced myself to stand long enough to cook his favorite, lemon garlic salmon with roasted potatoes. My hands trembled from the meds, but I wanted to feel useful, wanted to feel wanted. He came home, glanced at the plate and muttered, "Not hungry," then walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I sat alone, fork untouched, nausea curling in my stomach, not from treatment, but from the sound of him laughing on the phone behind the wall. A soft, low chuckle I hadn't heard in months. When I leaned in, I heard her voice. Melissa. The way she said his name made my skin crawl. She didn't know I was still awake. I stayed up all night, staring at the ceiling. By morning, I had convinced myself it wasn't what it sounded like. That it was grief. That maybe Melissa was leaning on him because of me. But a week later, I saw her car in the parking lot, his spot. I texted her. She said she was dropping off a book. At 11 p.m., 2 days later, he asked me to stay with my sister for the weekend. Said he needed to clear his head. I didn't argue. I went. And when I came back, there was a wine, glass in the sink, lipstick I didn't wear, a red lace bra on the bathroom floor. Not mine, not subtle. I didn't confront him right away. I didn't have the strength. I just folded. Quietly. I laid in bed for hours, fully clothed, eyes open. The kind of heartbreak that doesn't scream. It silences. I felt like I was vanishing, molecule by molecule. He didn't even notice. A week later, he told me I needed to think about moving out. Said the apartment felt heavy. I asked what that meant. He said, "You know, all the energy, the sadness, the cancer." My mouth opened, but no sound came out. That was the moment the humiliation became physical, like I could feel myself being discarded. I called Melissa that night, asked her outright, "Are you sleeping with him?" She paused. Just long enough, then laughed. "Claire, don't be dramatic. "You're just emotional." That word again. Emotional. The easy dismissal of a woman unraveling. But this time I didn't hang up. I listened. I listened to her tone. I heard possession in it. I heard smugness. I heard something that said, "I already have him." I didn't respond, just ended the call and sat there in the dark, gripping my IV pole like it could keep me from drowning. I wanted to scream, but I had no voice left. Then came the day. Chemo day. I came home early, was supposed to stay overnight, but there was a scheduling issue. I didn't tell him I was coming. I just wanted to sleep in my own bed. I opened the Uber door and froze. The porch, the bags, my life, reduced to garbage. I tried the key. It didn't work. I knocked. No answer. Finally, the landlord came out, looked uncomfortable. "Eric said you knew, that you were moving in. With family." My heart punched against my ribcage. "He removed you from the lease last week. I'm sorry, Claire." I sank to the steps. My body gave out. I was too weak to scream, too broken to run. I opened the bags out of instinct. My wedding dress was shoved inside one, wrinkled, dirty, as if it never mattered. As if I never mattered. That's when I saw the blanket. The chemo one. The one he used to cover me with on cold nights. The one I clutched through every IV drip. It was stuffed in with kitchen towels. Disposable, replaceable. Like me. And then I heard them. Upstairs. Laughter. A woman's laugh, hers. Melissa. The walls were thin enough to hear her say, "I think she finally got the message." He laughed back. "Took her long enough." I swear my soul left my body in that moment. That wasn't just betrayal. That was annihilation. That was watching the people you trusted the most turn you into a ghost. I wasn't angry yet. That would come. Right now, I was ashes, scattered, on the front porch of the life they stole. And the sickest part? They thought I'd disappear quietly. That cancer had broken me, that I wouldn't fight back. But they forgot something vital. I hadn't died yet. I disappeared after that day. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. I stopped answering calls. I stopped replying to texts. Even my sister couldn't reach me. I wasn't ready to explain. How do you tell people that the man who vowed to protect you threw you out mid-chemo for your best friend? I couch surfed, first with my sister, then a friend from work. Everyone was kind, but kindness felt like pity, and pity made me want to crawl out of my skin. I kept hearing their voices, Eric's laughter, Melissa's smugness. It looped in my head like a song I never asked to hear. My hair was gone. My skin was gray. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked hollow, like something had been scooped out of her soul. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping. Grief does that. But betrayal? Betrayal hollows you. I missed the next treatment. I couldn't bring myself to go. What was the point? The only person who ever made me feel safe in that chair had used it as a countdown to my eviction. Every time the nurse touched my arm, I flinched. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of disappearing. Then came the guilt. The shame. Was I really that hard to love? Was I too broken? Too bald? Too sick? Maybe I should have worn makeup more. Maybe I should have tried harder. That's what emotional abuse does. It makes you carry the weapon they used against you. Eric didn't check on me, not once. Not even to ask if I was okay. Melissa posted a photo the next week, her and Eric at a wine tasting. She captioned, "It, new beginnings." I stared at it for hours, numb. My hands were shaking, but my eyes refused to cry. I'd done enough of that. My sister begged me to report him, about the forged lease, the eviction. But I didn't have the energy. My bones felt like ash. Everything inside me was in fragments. Every breath felt like dragging broken glass through my lungs. One night, I took the throw blanket from the trash bag. It still smelled like chemotherapy rooms, sterile, faintly floral. I wrapped it around myself and curled into a corner. I whispered, "Why?" over and over until my throat gave out. No one answered. Not God, not Eric, not even me. The rage came next, quiet at first, like embers. I started replaying the months leading up to it. Every cold shoulder, every lie, every time he chose her over me while pretending he was still mine. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was being erased, and they expected applause for doing it quietly. My journal became my only outlet. I started writing everything, every detail, every message, every appointment. I needed to see the truth written out, needed to remember that I wasn't imagining it, that this wasn't a sad accident. It was a calculated betrayal. The humiliation didn't end with the bags. It kept echoing. Friends pulled away. No one knew what to say. Some believed Eric's version, that I left him, that I was too sick to function, that he had no choice. Gaslighting doesn't stop when the relationship ends. It spreads like poison. I started therapy. My therapist's name was Carla. She told me something that stuck. He didn't leave you because you were sick. He left because your sickness removed the mask he was hiding behind. I clung to that sentence like a lifeline. I wasn't just mourning a marriage. I was mourning who I thought I was with him. I wasn't his wife. I was his cover, his trophy, his shield from guilt. And once I needed real support, the illusion shattered. He wasn't ready to be a caregiver. He was barely capable of being human. And still, I didn't want revenge. Not then. I wanted peace. I wanted to feel like my life hadn't been stolen, that my body wasn't a grave for promises no one intended to keep. I just didn't know that peace would only come after I uncovered the truth, because something deeper was wrong. Something Eric was hiding. And once I found it, everything would shift. The humiliation wasn't the end. It was the spark. I opened my laptop and stared at Craigslist listings, lease templates, eviction notices. My pulse hammered. If he'd removed me from the lease, he'd left a trail. I typed in our address. His name alone showed up. Clean, official. No signature. From me. No paper trail. Nothing tying me to home. I felt fury ignite. This wouldn't stand. I reached out to the landlord again, this time armed with facts. I asked for records, lease agreements, lease history, email chains. He hesitated at first, then relented. I watched a PDF load on the screen. 1 page. Eric's. Name only. No mention of me. No lease overlap. I saw red. He thought he could gaslight the system. Until I showed up. I remembered Melissa had dropped off that book and never left. I logged into our home security account, still under my email. I clicked through timestamps. A video popped up. Melissa entering our place at midnight, dressed like it was a date. She looked around, smirked. My stomach dropped. This was no accidental visit. It was possession. I pulled up his credit card statements. Sensitive, but I had access. Hotel charges, spa dates, flower deliveries to her apartment. I saved screenshots. The evidence piled up in a folder labeled Receipt Revenge. Evidence of betrayal, yes, but also of his cowardice, of their casual cruelty. I texted my sister. I need your help. I'm going public. She sounded hesitant, then said, Do what? You need. It was a turning point. I realized I wasn't alone anymore. My pain was no longer shameful. It was truth, and truth deserved to be seen. I messaged a former friend, one who knew Melissa well. I asked pointed questions. Did Melissa ever criticize me? Did she claim Eric confided in her about issues? The answers were swift. Yes. She painted me as unreliable, emotional. She painted him as burdened, manipulation through half-truths. Then came the clincher. I found emails from Eric's phone to Melissa, thanking her for being the other half and praising her for helping him get out of a toxic situation. I cried, not from sadness, but rage. That entitlement, that arrogance. They thought they were untouchable. Armed with receipts, security footage, and emails, I compiled a dossier. Every cheat, every lie, every word, black and white. I added annotations, dates, emotional impact. I titled it, "He Thought I Wouldn't. Find Out." Because that's exactly what he believed. But I did, and I would. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer, one who specializes in tenant rights and emotional distress. I had bills piling up. I had missed treatments. I had lost more than clothes. I needed compensation. But more than that, I needed acknowledgement. I emailed friends and family. I'm done hiding. I need support. Responses flooded in. Apologies, regret, offers to testify. I realized betrayal doesn't just hurt between two people. It reverberates across everyone who loves you. I discovered allies where I thought no one stood. I posted an anonymous blog piece, a confessional excerpt titled, "When Your Partner Picks Her Over Cancer." Within hours, it blew up. Messages poured in. Me too. That's exactly what happened. I almost died, not from chemo, but from his betrayal. I wasn't alone. I was part of something bigger. I saw comments from women sharing experiences, granular, heartbreaking, infuriating. He stopped hospital visits the week I lost hope. She moved in the day I passed out in chemo. Each voice added fuel to my fire. This wasn't a private wound, it was a public reckoning. That night, I sat with the throw blanket around my shoulders. It felt different now, no longer a symbol of abandonment, but of endurance. I whispered, I became his biggest regret. Because soon, I would make sure he felt the weight of what he'd done. He had built his fantasy on lies, but I had built a case on truth. And truth is brutal. Truth is unstoppable, and I was finally ready. I didn't show up at his door. I didn't scream or cry or beg. I sent him an email. No subject line, just a link. It led to a Google Drive folder titled Receipts in Sickness and in Lies. Inside were screenshots, videos, bank statements, the lease, messages, proof, all of it, timestamps included. I didn't add a single word. I didn't need to. He didn't reply. But I know he saw it. You can always tell when a narcissist loses control. They go silent first. Then they spiral. 2 hours later, I got a message from an unknown number. We need to talk. I didn't respond. I just smiled, because he had no idea. I filed an official complaint with the tenant board, presented my medical records, the forged lease removal, and eviction during chemotherapy. The lawyer handled the rest. The case was airtight. The landlord backed off. Suddenly, Eric's little clean exit became a legal liability. Then came the social part. I wrote a full essay, signed it with my name this time, and posted it across every platform. I didn't mention names, but the details were unmistakable. People figured it out fast. His coworkers, her friends, our wedding guests, everyone. Screenshots spread like wildfire. People commented. People remembered. That's the thing about betrayal. When the curtain lifts, everyone starts connecting the dots they once ignored. Melissa lost clients. Eric's boss unfollowed him. His reputation, carefully curated, cracked like glass under pressure. I heard through a friend that Melissa tried to get ahead of the story, claimed I was unstable, claimed Eric was just trying to survive. But people didn't buy it. Not after the videos, not after the lease fraud, not after the cancer. You don't kick someone out during chemo and come out clean. I mailed him the blanket. No note. Just the throw blanket from the trash bags, washed, folded. A callback to the moment he made me disposable. Now he'd have to look at it every day and remember exactly who he threw away. A symbol of everything he tried to erase and failed. He finally reached out. Really reached out. A voicemail, voice shaking. Claire, I made mistakes. I was scared. Please don't destroy me. I played it once, then deleted it. Not out of forgiveness, but because I was done giving him space in my life. He left me, but he didn't break me. Melissa tried too. A DM, dripping in fake concern. I didn't know it was that serious. I thought you were recovering. I replied with one sentence. You helped bury me alive, but I crawled out. Then I blocked her. I didn't need to see her unravel. I was her unraveling. I spoke at a survivors group not long after. Told my story out loud. The gaslighting. The humiliation. The betrayal. Afterward, a woman hugged me and whispered, "You gave me the courage to leave." That meant more than any courtroom win. Because this wasn't just about revenge. It was about impact. The case settled quietly. He paid damages. I donated part of it to a foundation for women with cancer and nowhere to go. The rest went to my next treatment cycle and a new apartment. Clean, bright, mine. No lies in the walls, no ghosts in the closet. He thought he could discard me quietly, but I became the headline. He tried to erase me, but I became unforgettable. Not because of what he did, but because I survived it and made sure everyone knew the truth. This wasn't revenge. This was emotional justice. And justice, when served cold, leaves a scar they never heal from. My new apartment had light, real light, the kind that touched every corner without asking permission. There were no shadows, no echoes of betrayal, just space, clean counters, quiet mornings. I bought new sheets in soft gold, hung paintings I'd been saving. It felt like breathing again for the first time. I painted one wall a pale blue, the color of hope. It used to be the color of hospital gloves. Now it reminded me of possibility, of oceans, of everything I had left to feel. Healing is strange. It's not linear. It doesn't apologize. But one day, you wake up and realize the pain doesn't own your voice anymore. I got stronger, physically, emotionally. I finished treatment. My hair started to grow back, wild, uneven curls that I refused to tame. I wore red lipstick again, not to impress anyone, but because it made me feel dangerous, unapologetic, alive. I went back to the bookstore where I first met Eric, stood in the same aisle, touched the same shelf. This time I bought the book. For me. No one chased me outside. No promises, just peace. That was the difference. I didn't need anyone else's ending anymore. I was writing my own. People still ask me what happened. I always say, he left me during chemo, but I got the last word. It stops them cold. And in that silence, I feel it. The shift. The discomfort of truth. The weight of exposure. I never lie. I don't need to. The truth is sharper than any revenge. I started journaling again, not to track pain, but to celebrate survival. I wrote about joy, about music, about days without nausea. I filled pages with the names of people who stayed, who showed up. Because yes, Eric left. Melissa betrayed. But not everyone abandoned me. One day, I passed them, at a cafe downtown. They didn't see me. He looked tired. She looked older. I didn't stop, didn't speak. But as I walked past, I caught her looking. Just a flicker. Recognition. Regret. I didn't need her to say anything. Her silence told me everything. Because here's the truth. I didn't get closure. I got freedom. I stopped needing apologies from people too small to offer them. I stopped explaining why I stayed so long, why I believed so much. I forgave myself, and that was the hardest part. I took the throw blanket, the same one they tossed out, and folded it into my donation bin. It had done its job. It kept me warm when I was dying, but I didn't need it anymore. That version of me, the one who begged, who wept, who waited, she's gone. And I love her for surviving. He said once that I was too exhausting to love. Turns out I'm the only thing he ever lost that he couldn't replace. I became his biggest regret, and I carry that not as a wound, but as a crown. Now, when I tell my story, I don't tremble. I don't flinch. I speak it clean, like a scalpel. Because there's power in naming what hurt you, power in surviving what was meant to destroy you. And that power, that's mine now. This wasn't heartbreak. It was awakening.